Good morning. I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm going through the text again this year, reading it a little at a time and asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then I'll write from that clarity. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're now in chapter 7, section 1, the last step. And we're reading today paragraphs 3 and 4. So paragraph 3 says, your creations belong in you as you belong in God. You are part of God as your sons are part of his sons. To create is to love. Love extends outward simply because it cannot be contained. Being limitless, it does not stop. It creates forever, but not in time. God's creations have always been because he has always been. Your creations have always been because you can create only as God creates. Eternity is yours because he created you eternal. We have creations who are part of us and part of God. They have always been as we have always been. When Jesus reminds us of our creations, I long to remember them. It is one more reason to awaken from this dream of being separate and different from creation. I treasure these passages that define God and our relationship to him. He created us as an extension of himself, eternally one with him and in him. As an extension of God, we create, and our creations are one with us and with God eternally. This is never-ending creation, love extending outward, limitless, and forever part of God. In paragraph 4, it tells us the ego, on the other hand, always demands reciprocal rights because it is competitive rather than loving. It is always willing to strike a bargain, but it cannot understand that to be like another means that no bargains are possible. To gain, you must give, not bargain. To bargain is to limit giving, and this is not God's will. To will with God is to create like God. God does not limit his gifts in any way. You are his gifts, and so your gifts must be like his. Your gifts to the kingdom must be like his gifts to you. A Course in Miracles introduces me to a God so unlike the one I learned about in traditional religion. That God loved me only when I was obedient and punished me when I was not. The God I used to believe in was a bargain maker. It seems so obvious to me now that this God is simply a reflection of the ego and not God at all. God gives and only gives. He has no conditions on his giving. He gives because it is his nature and because he created me from his nature as an extension of his nature. I too give without condition. So this thing I seem to be now, this bargain maker, is clearly not me. Becoming aware of my beliefs that do not reflect my true nature is the first step in returning to my senses. I ask that these beliefs be brought to my attention. How do I reflect the belief that love is a contract, a bargain to be struck? How do I try to set boundaries and limits on love? I want to be aware of these misconceptions in my mind so that I can look with spirit and allow them to be undone for me. As the answers to my prayers begin to play across my mind, I see that they are many and often subtle. I thought I needed my daughter to answer a question for me before I could go on with my plans. She seemed to be ignoring her texts and her phone calls. I felt annoyed and frustrated. I felt rejected. Because my feelings were mostly focused inward and carefully hidden behind the gentle facade that I was, and a gentler facade than I was actually feeling, A slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. Lesson 21, right? I could avoid seeing the hidden bargain. Looking honestly with the Holy Spirit, I can see the bargain. If my daughter shows me love, respect, and attention, then I will love her above all things and put her first in my life. If she fails to live up to her part of the bargain, I will turn on her in carefully cloaked rage. I can't let her see the full extent of my fury because I want to renegotiate. If I know I'm going to want to renegotiate the bargain. So I use more subtle methods to bring her back into line, maybe guilt and manipulation. Could I have ever thought this was love? And yet it passes for love in most people's relationships. Many relationships themselves are an attempt to limit love. I will single you out and love you in a special way if you will love me that way. Isn't this the bargain typically made between two people who fall in love? What if I simply loved and allowed the love to flow everywhere? What if there were no boundaries on my love? I could still live with only one person. I could even marry that person. But why should that be a special relationship? Why should marriage to one person limit the flow of love? Yet that is a way we typically define being in love. Two people find each other so special that the love they feel for each other differs from the love they feel for others. That is like building a wall around love to contain it. This is not the nature of love. So what is felt is no longer love. The bargain between two people to limit love is no longer about love, but is now about need and the fear of loss. I see the thoughts in my mind about reciprocal giving, such as those I noticed when my daughter failed to answer my call. Those kinds of thoughts occur in nearly all relationships. Mostly they float on by, though sometimes they slow down a bit as I consider them, deciding whether or not to believe the thought. Very rarely now, I choose to believe it for a while until I get tired of suffering, and then I let it go. It is a relief and wonderfully freeing not to be blindly attached to that belief anymore. Here's where I am still learning how to love. I still do not allow my love to flow unimpeded by limits of any kind. I try to direct it to some people and withhold it from others. Of myself, I cannot do anything about this. What I can do is desire to experience love as it truly is, not what I tried to make of it. My desire is an invitation to healing. As I notice the times when I try to direct love, I ask that my mind be healed of such foolish and unproductive beliefs. I do this as often as I need to and allow the desire for love to be love become stronger until it overwhelms the need to be special. I must be getting closer because I can now imagine my love flowing like a strong and wide river, encompassing all in its path. It makes me laugh at the idea of the river trying to avoid certain people or getting dammed up by others. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.